good attitude people are gonna applaud you, and you're gonna do well in it itself.
Yeah, that's probably a bit more complex psychological question,
Yeah,
and I'm really
let's
equipped
keep it to
answer.
training.
Yeah,
The thing again, going back to like the mindset. So like, there's a difference in looking at competition when you're 10 and when you're 20. So say you're in the NFL or you're say shot putter, 20 years old, you're trying to go to the Olympics or whatever. What type of effort do you put into the training, and what does it become? What priority does it become in your life if you want to keep it a thing?
yeah. I mean, I'd say that the people who are playing sport at the highest level in the world, whatever sport that is, it's got to be one of the top two priorities in their life. It's either going to
Besides
be
eating.
well, yeah, it's going to be like their family and the sport.
Yeah.
And there are probably times for a lot of those people where it's the sport and then their family, and that's going to be a more personal decision that people have to make. And there's probably a lot of people who, if you asked them, they'd say family then sport, but their actions may say sport then family,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But it has to be. It's going to be nearly all encompassing.
Yeah.
This past weekend, I was at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, spending time with our weightlifters, and they're a little bit less than a month away now from Olympic trials, and it's wake up, eat, train, eat, take a nap, train, eat, or eat, train, eat. That because they don't have a lot of support monetarily from USA weightlifting. They're doing some online coaching and something like that in there, but it's a pretty Spartan existence as far as just.
You really have to want to do it to do that shit for that long.
And you really have to put a lot of what people would traditionally look at as goals that a 26, 28, 30-year-old person is going to have as far as career, family, those kind of things. Those are put on hold for a lot of them, and in a lot of ways they have to be. One of my heroes growing up was a guy named Adam Nelson. He was the silver medalist in 2000 and 2004 in the shot put. Got moved up to gold from the 2004 Olympics through retroactive drug testing, and he told me that he felt like the best his training ever was when he was preparing for the 2000 Olympic trials. He put about 5.5, almost 6 feet on his shot put PR in the last 2.5 months leading to the trials, and he lived with 10 other Olympic hopefuls in a house in Palo Alto, and they all trained at Stanford, and he lived in the closet underneath the stairs. So you have a guy with no money. All of his money is being spent on food and traveling to meets.
Yeah.
And he threw, I think at that point, about 22 meters in the shot put, 72 feet. Went on, won Olympic trials and then silver medal at the Olympics. And there was no other priority in his life at that point. And as he went to later Olympics and international competitions and got married and had kids and had other things going on, but he said that was the best his training ever was, and it was certainly the least amount of distractions, because all he thought about was eat, train, sleep, eat, train, sleep.
Yeah, I think. So like one last thing is, say you have an athlete who just doesn't, or someone who has potential to be great in a sport, but they just don't seem to care. They seem to be, say, afraid of doing the sport or whatever. They think they just aren't good at it. Whatever. How should they go about fixing that if they, say they want to play the sport but they're afraid to do it just for whatever reason?
Oh, and I don't know if that's something that can be fixed. I'm not very motivational type of guy, and I coached high school football for 3 years, and we had kids who were talented but didn't care that much, and I never got that. Like I didn't understand why they didn't want to work harder. That's something I always took a lot of pride in.
Always showing up for practices as well. Kind of thing I always tried to do.
I could only control how hard I worked.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take any special talent to work hard. It doesn't take any special talent to show up. When people have that talent and they're squandering it, really, it's I think an infuriating thing to people who wish they had that talent because they have the desire for it. And
I mean, I don't know, one thing back when I played rugby a lot is I would show up for like every practice I could, and like half the team wouldn't show up for some of the games even, and especially in team sports, like why? I mean, why not just go and...
I think that might be a big reason why I gravitated more towards individual sports.
Yeah, because it's just based on,
Yeah, you have all the control, as much control as possible of your success or failure.
Yeah.
If someone beats you because they're better than you and they're more talented and they worked as hard, you can't really do anything about that.
Yeah.
But you can control your own results. How that result stacks up is a different question. But yeah, I mean, if you work with athletes who they lack the motivation, if it's extrinsic motivation, from a coach, whether that's reward based or punishment based or whatever it is only going to be so effective. If someone only wants to go play in the NFL so they can make a lot of money can be a really motivating thing.
Yeah.
But when they go up against someone who is of similar talents and is intrinsically motivated by a passion for success in the sport or a passion for improvement or whatever it is, the person with that intrinsic motivation is going to be more successful. If there's intrinsic and then extrinsic on top of it, that's going to be the best scenario probably.
Yeah. Cool. So I think we'll just go on to the next thing then, which is... Yeah, we did touch on like overspecialization. We did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So being a great coach, well, that encompasses... Because I know you coached high school football and you coached... did you coach NFL players as well?
Yeah, I got about 12 guys in the NFL, about 30 college football players, and coached high school football and track for 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you chose to do that not just because, hey, I can do it, but, you actually wanted to kind of make a difference, and like what kind of went into doing that and just...
when I coached high school football and track, I think that was as much about impacting people's life or their development as people, as much or more than it was about helping them hone their talents as athletes. I think playing sports for me, like I said, it's something I've done my entire life since I was 5 years old, and I just always loved it.
Yeah.
And it was such a positive impact for me, particularly in high school, because I had guys who were good coaches, but really guys who were just good people who cared about, did they want me to get stronger or faster or throw farther or play better? Definitely. Did they want me to understand how to be a person of high character and a good leader? Definitely. And that was what was more impactful for me. When I was coaching high school football, I would read a ton about leadership. There's a school called De La Salle. It's a private high school in Northern California. And they won 151 games in a row. They didn't lose a football game for 12 years.
Not too bad.
Yeah. And their coach is named Bob Ladouceur. And they did the majority of this streak of winning with teams that were regarded, when looking at the teams who are the best high school ball teams in the country, but teams that are regarded as having undersized players, lack of skill, lack of speed. But they did all of the other parts of things. Their preparation was as ideal as possible. They worked harder than everyone. And then I think they had something that was intangible in a sense that I heard a coach describe as a force multiplier. That they had extreme amount of passion and commitment to their teammates, to their cause, but that they were doing something that was more than just playing football. And that's something that really interested me. And I think that's something that people need to consider, especially doing a recreational sport like powerlifting, where I don't make my living from powerlifting.
Would be pretty cool though.
Yeah, I make my living because of powerlifting, but indirectly. But you got to be about more than that.
Yeah.
They're great lifters, and that's their sole existence. Is how did this training session go and all that stuff, and I think there's just more to life, than pieces of metal on the ends of another piece of metal,
What?
Yeah, and so being able to have, being able to focus on being a good leader, father, or husband, business owner, whatever it may be, I think that's going to be a lot more fulfilling in the long term. But in regards to that, to being able to be a good coach, I think that goes to the heart of caring about the people you're coaching as people, not just as sporting results. And particularly when you work with youth athletes, it's going to be more and more about that. Because it's, if you coach high schoolers, very, very few of them are going to go on to play their sport beyond high school. But all of them, are going to go on to live their life beyond high school. So, if you just taught them how to block and tackle and lift weights, is there discipline to be learned in that? Of course, but you got to focus on the character development and that kind of thing. But focusing on the athletes, on teaching them how to be process oriented, to teach them how to be committed, to teach them how to be, to understand delayed gratification. There's going to be a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
And then coaching, always asking yourself, like, what can I do to help this person get better? And that's going to be what takes people the farthest.
Right. Any, just one last thing, any books on that in particular? You said you looked into that a lot.
Yeah.
I think I might find that interesting, actually.
The one that's my absolute favorite is a book called Season of Life by Jeffrey Marks. And in it, he spends a year with a high school football team in Maryland, a coach named Joe Ehrman. And it's a really, really good team. And again, like De La Salle, it's not a situation where it seems like, all they care about is football, where they're really trying to develop the character of these guys. And high character people, I think they're just more successful in whatever they're trying to do. When the Game Stands Tall is another good one. That's about De La Salle.
Yeah. Is that the one they turned into a movie as well?
Yeah, the movie kind of sucked compared to the book. But there's several De La Salle books and like documentaries, like independently done documentaries. They're all really good.
Yeah.
Perfect Effort is another good De La Salle one. The Greatest Game Ever Played is another good De La Salle one. I think it's called One is another De La Salle documentary. They're all really good. And it was before I left Cal and came down here to start coaching high school ball. De La Salle's in the Bay Area, and I went there every day for 2 weeks. It was like 45-minute drive there and just watched their practice and talked to their coaches and saw how they did things. And it was almost like they didn't even need coaches anymore. Like they were so disciplined.
Yeah.
They were so, the seniors were such great leaders, and there was just such a tremendous structure to it. I was always fascinated by it because it actually seemed like a replicatable model. You get a team down here like Long Beach Poly is, all-time powerhouse for high school football. But they got guys who run 4.3s and kids are 6'6", 300 pounds, and you can't teach someone how to be 6'6", 300 pounds. And I see De La Salle beat these 6'6", 300 pound guys with guys who are 5'10", 210.
Yeah.
And just work really hard, and are the talented athletes, of course. No one's going to win without talent, but they were winning with so much less talent that the hard work qualities and the character development and all that stuff seemed like you couldn't replicate it to a De La Salle level, because that's like, lightning in a bottle type of just perfection built over 25 years that the guy was coaching there, 30 years.
Yeah.
But it seemed replicatable to some degree.
Cool. And then, so last thing is just, really if you could just give the story of how you started Juggernaut. Yeah. Like one day you just kind of decided, hey, I'm going to do this for a living now.
Yeah, more or less. So I started Juggernaut and started working on Juggernaut in June 2009. And I had just decided to pass on taking a track coaching job at the University of California, Berkeley, where I'd gone to college my first 2 years of school, and they wanted me to come back there and coach the throwers, and I still would have, wanted to train for the shot put and stuff. I decided to pass on it just because being a 22 or 23-year-old assistant college track coach is a really bad paying job, and the Bay Area is a really expensive place to live. So I was like, I'm going to have to coach track, do my own training, and assuming I don't want to be like nearly homeless, I'd probably have to have another job like like a bouncer or something at a bar. And I was like, that's just not what I want to do. So I decided to pass on that. And when that happened, I got contacted by a physical therapist who I'd worked with, who knew that I saw kind of a flaw in the training of a lot of athletes and these kind of private facilities that are popular down here.
Yeah.
And she said, hey, I heard you're staying around here. You want to talk about, that idea you had. We never talked formally about it. It was just kind of like laying on the table, getting treatment. Oh, what do you want to do after college? I'd really like to work with athletes. And so she gave us an opportunity to do that, created at least what I thought at the time was a business plan. And
exactly what did that look like? Because I've heard you mention that before, but you never gone into detail, like make money.
Yeah, it had projections and stuff that were based off of nothing, essentially. Yeah, that was just that sounds good, and I think a lot of people who get into fitness business think it's all about fitness and it's all about training.
Yeah,
and my degree is in history, so many of the business aspects of it didn't even cross my mind. But I got to start this company with one of my best friends, Nate Winkler, and he at least was in the process of getting his MBA, so he was able to do a lot of those things for us. But you can learn stuff about business while you're getting an MBA, but it's nothing compared to actually doing business.
Yeah.
So we started writing the business plan in June 2009. Got a private loan from this physical therapist in July 2009. Got the keys to our warehouse in August 2009, and we're open for business in September. And those were a very fast 3 months. Again, I was coming from coaching high school football and track. I just graduated college. We started off with 0 clients. And
in this really big facility, right? I think it was
6,000 square feet. Yeah. And
shit.
It's easy to start in a big facility when you spend someone else's money. If it would have been my own, it would have been a much smaller one because I didn't have any money. So
wouldn't have been any gym.
Yeah. So, but we just worked. We just cold called and got people just like totally shutting us down sometimes, but we just worked, and Nate and I kind of committed to ourselves and to each other that if this doesn't work and if it goes under, it's not going to be because we didn't try hard enough, and that's the one thing that you can control. So we did the best job of customer service that we could. We trained people the best that we could. We stayed up late and got up early, and we're working like 70, 75-hour weeks, and we just went for it. And I think, I've talked some about this idea in other videos and articles about the courage to be great. And in 2009, the economy was much worse off than it is now, and people were like, oh, that's really brave, you're starting your own company right now. I was like, yeah, I don't know, this is what I want to do, so we're just going to go for it and do it.
Yeah.
And, that never crossed our mind or anything. So we just kept going and just working at it. And from 2009 to 2012, built up a pretty successful in-person training business and a very strong reputation, particularly locally in football, volleyball, and water polo, with a lot of really good athletes. Also in jiu-jitsu, had like over 10 black belts, and we had like this one training group that at one point had won like 17 world championships between them.
Wow.
But also during that time, I had put out Juggernaut Method 1, the first Juggernaut Method ebook, and kind of realized at that point, I was like, oh, this is a lot kind of easier in some ways to do this online education stuff, and I can impact thousands and thousands of people through doing that type of work, where in the in-person gym, maybe we're going to see 100, 120 a week. So I decided at that point, our lease was up, to move out of that facility, still train some people through subleasing, but at another facility, but really put a lot of our attention to the online part of the business. So that's when I started kind of creating this team Juggernaut idea and seeking out experts, subject matter experts in other fields.
Yeah.
Weightlifting, CrossFit, physical therapy, nutrition, And in that time, from September 2012, I think the JTSstrength.com got about 25,000 visits that month, and now it gets about 500,000 per month. So I figure if I can do that one more time, 2,000%, 20,000% increase, something like that, that would be doing pretty well. But it's been great, to get to connect with athletes and coaches in so many different fields, and they share their knowledge, I share mine. We learn from each other. We're all, sort of high tide raises all boats sort of situation.
Yeah.
And I like to think that we provide some of the best content available, and I think that we do it well because we're doing it from people who really live their passion, who live weightlifting, who live powerlifting, who live physical therapy and nutrition, not just people who
want to sell you a specialty bar or whatever.
Well, not just people who want to. I said there's internet coaches and there's coaches who put stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
Internet coaches may have never coached anyone. They might have never even done the things that they're writing about, but they're very good marketers, or they're very good. They present information well, but what is that information that they're presenting? What is it based on? What is it based on? Is it based on fads and gimmicks, and this sounds really fancy and it's a good sell, and they have great email subject lines and sales sequences, or are they real coaches who are sharing what's been successful for them? And I think because we focus on the latter, real coaches who are sharing what's successful for them, even though maybe it's not the most polished information all the time, it is really high quality.
Right. When did you start the website? Was that the same time you started the gym?
Yeah, we had, I think we're now on a fourth incarnation design of JTSstrength.com, but we had one right when we started. It was basically just like, contact us, this is our location.
Right.
And then in like mid-2010, let's say, that's when I started posting some articles on our site, but it was like one every 2 or 3 months kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they could buy like some T-shirts from the site, that we were shipping out ourselves like once a week, once every other week kind of thing,
right.
But a very small operation. And then in September 2012, when we made the transition from having the facility to then subleasing another facility, but putting the real attention to the website, we redid it again then, and then this past August 2015 launched our current version of the site, and hopefully we'll have that one for a while, because we'll try to make it as good as we could, and sort of plan several years in advance as far as design goes and things like that, and scalability.
Yeah. What did you do in particular just to get the site to take off? Was it just get in contact with people who people wanted to hear advice from, or?
Yeah, I mean it was as organic as it could possibly be. I think that the website grew a lot because we wrote things that were interesting.
Yeah.
We provided valuable information, and all I really think about now in terms of growing the site isn't what's trendy, isn't what's clickbait kind of articles. It's if we can consistently and in a fairly entertaining fashion answer the question, how can we help ... improve, and that ... is going to get filled in with powerlifters, weightlifters, CrossFitters, coaches, physical therapists, chiropractors,